Kamala Harris went on the #1 women's podcast called Call Her Daddy. And it was a train wreck, of course, like most of her interviews are. And of course, it also went viral. Everyone knows that Kamala is not really good in these kinds of settings. She's actually quite terrible in interviews, and this kind of was no different. So I'm going to go over the 2 most cringeworthy moments of this interview that really highlight how cooked we are this election season. Okay, before we start, Alex Cooper made it clear that she also extended this invitation to Donald Trump, and it looks like he didn't accept it. Props to her for trying to at least open the conversation up to both sides. Now, is it smart or stupid for Trump to decline this offer? It's kind of tough to say. I don't really think he would have convinced any of the Call Her Daddy listeners to vote for him, and the interview would have also been heavily edited, which is also obviously not in his favor. And we know that Trump does not poll well with young women, especially the young women who are listening to Call Her Daddy. It's just not his target demographic, which is why it's a smarter choice for him to do what he did on the Flagrant Show, go on the Flagrant Show with Andrew Scholes and those comedians. That's his thing, to riff, to go off the cuff, to be a little bit more natural and raw. That was a good move by him. So Alex, right off the bat, asks Kamala Harris why she chose to go on the Call Her Daddy podcast, because she doesn't usually do podcast interviews. And this was her answer.
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right, which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real, and to talk about the things that people really care about. What I love about what you do is that your voice in your show is really about your listeners. And I think especially now, this is a moment in the country and in life where people really want to know they're seen and heard, and that they're part of a community, that they're not out there alone. And so I'm really glad to be with you.
Who fed her this answer? I mean, also, this delivery is so unconvincing. It is just so forced. She obviously probably didn't even know who Alex Cooper was. It probably never even heard of Call Her Daddy before her team shoved it at her. And it's ironic that she's talking about the importance of being real. Being real, when Kamala is like the least real politician that we have seen on the main stage in recent years. But okay, let's get into the first highlight that I want to discuss of this interview. And it's a question about housing and the cost of living. It's actually a really good question that Alex Cooper posed. Let's go over this interaction.
Almost 1 in 4 Gen Z and millennials say they don't want to have kids because it's too damn expensive. How are you going to help young people not feel left behind?
Okay, that's a good question. Excellent question, because there are a lot of young people right now who are talking about the cost of living, especially when it comes to the housing market, which Kamala's going to talk about. Because when you want to start a family, one of the first things you want to make sure you have is a home. And if you think about like our parents' generation in the 80s, 70s, whatever, they were able to buy a house for pretty damn cheap compared to now. And now it's like the housing market is impenetrable for a lot of people. So let's see what Kamala's answer is.
First of all, it's a very real issue, and we need to take it seriously. And I do take it very seriously. So there are a number of issues that contribute to that feeling.
Okay, why does she always answer questions like this? She always answers questions like, this is a really important topic, and I want you to know that I take it seriously. This is a real issue. I take it seriously. Why does she even have to frame it like that? Obviously, it's a real issue. Obviously, this is something important. You should take it seriously. The fact that you have to say that you take it seriously it's just so performative. Let's keep going.
One is housing is too expensive, and we need to increase the housing supply. So part of my plan is to work with home builders in the private sector to build, by the end of my first term, 3 million more housing units. Second piece.
Okay, let's go over that first piece. So she says 2 things. She says housing is too expensive. Yes, we agree with that. And she follows that up with, so we need to create more houses. You don't have to be an economist to know that just building more houses is not going to solve the insanely high cost of the housing market currently. That's not how you solve inflation rates, high interest rates. You don't solve the high cost of homes by just building 3 million more housing units. And this is like, it is so condescending and honestly insulting that she thinks people are going to listen to this and say, oh yeah, that's a really great idea. Okay. That's such a great solution. Yeah, we need more houses. But the sad thing is I think we actually overestimate a lot of young voters. And I mean, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but we overestimate their understanding of the economy. And so a lot of the listeners of podcasts like Call Her Daddy, they probably hear that and they're like, yes, girl, we need more houses. Build those 3 million houses. That is not a solution to making homes more affordable. That's not how it works from an economic standpoint. Now let's listen to what her second piece is.
This is $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. Because a big issue in terms of the barrier to being a homeowner is just having enough to actually put that down payment down, right? To get your foot in the door.
$25,000 to first-time home buyers. Okay, where do you guys think that money is going to come from? Okay, it's going to come from the government. Where do you think the government gets their money? You think they just print it out? You think they just go to a tree and pluck it off fresh? A couple of $1,000 bills just fresh off the tree? It's obviously from our tax dollars. So now she's talking about our tax money, your hard-earned money going to help some random people put a down payment on their first house. That is insane. I don't want my tax dollars doing that. And if we're going to give $25,000 to every first-time home buyer, you're going to have to raise taxes somehow in order to make money to do that. Now, some people are responding, some of these Kamala sympathizers and these Kamala apologists are like, yeah, but if you actually look at her website, she's talking about offering that to first-generation home buyers, which is different than first-time home buyers. I don't care. I don't care. I don't want my tax dollars going to first generation home buyers. Why do you think you're so much more special? And this is the whole thing, because anything that's generational, like if your parents were able to buy a home, that means you're automatically more privileged than somebody whose parents didn't buy a home before you? No, that's not how it works. You are not, you don't get a privilege to get people's tax dollars more than I do. You didn't earn people's tax dollars more than I did. I don't want my taxes to pay for people's first time down payments. I don't. And it's also a terrible solution because if anything, I want the government to stop spending the tax dollars on so many things, stop spending things on foreign wars, stop sending our tax dollars to all of these initiatives overseas. I mean, didn't we find out in 2020 or something like that, or 21, that our tax dollars were going to Afghanistan for some DEI initiatives? No, we don't. We need to stop spending our tax dollars on these random things. And here's the sad thing. And this is why I listened to this interview and I'm like, oh my gosh, we are so cooked as a society. We are so cooked as a culture. Because no, I don't think that this interview necessarily helped Kamala increase her liking and increase her approval in the polls. But it does show me how dumb the average voter is, because she's going on Call Her Daddy to tell everybody that she's going to give you $25,000, knowing that most people listening to this are going to be like, yes, we need money. We need help. Please give us help, government. Please give us $25,000. She knows that people are dumb enough to hear this and think that this is a really, really good idea, when in fact, it's a terrible idea and we should stop asking the government to pay for things on our behalf. She is not talking at all about fixing anything in the economy right here in this clip. And this is what's so frustrating about this interview and what's so frustrating about this entire campaign and the fact that people actually support this, because she is not saying anything that she's going to do that's going to help lower housing costs, lower inflation, lower interest rates. She's just talking about throwing money at people to make you feel better.
The other piece of it is we need to give tax credits and really understand that middle class and working people need a break. And so part of my plan is to give 100 million more people who basically are middle class working people tax cuts, including for young parents, a $6,000 tax cut for the first year of their child's life.
Okay, I'm not opposed to tax cuts. I'm not opposed to tax credits. I think that they're nice incentives for families to have more kids and for young couples to have their first child. But again, Alex asked about what she's going to do to make things more affordable for our country and for our economy. And she still has yet to answer what she's going to do for the economy to make it more affordable. I would prefer for the economy to be more affordable than for the government to like give me tax credits and give me money, because that's not a solution to fixing the economy. And once again, the sad thing is that people are not able to decipher between the two. They don't know the difference between making the economy a more affordable place versus the government just handing things out to you so you feel like something's happening. And that's what's so frustrating about this young voting base, is that Kamala knows that, and her team, her campaign knows that. So they're capitalizing on young people's complete misunderstanding of the economy. And they're capitalizing on young people's desire to have handouts from the government, because I think it's such a wonderful thing when at the end of the day, it ends up crippling people and it does not help the economy at all. So let's get into the second big highlight, which actually went even more viral. And this was a question about bodily autonomy, a woman's right to do whatever she wants with her body. So let's watch this little clip and we'll chat about it.
I want to pose this question more to you and the Daddy Gang, but one of the biggest conversations in this year's election revolves around a woman's body.
Yep.
I want to take a moment and can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision
I know what you're going to ask.
about a man's body.
No.
Is there any law?
No. It's no.
Oh man, I hear this and I weep for the future, because the idea that the government should never tell you what you can or you can't do with your body is a ridiculous concept. I hate to break it to you, but there are already many laws in place that exist that tell both men and women what they are able to do with their body. You cannot unalive somebody. You cannot use your body to steal. You cannot use your body to physically harm somebody. There are so many things that you are not able to legally do with your body, because your right to bodily autonomy ends the minute that bodily autonomy infringes on somebody else's rights. The minute that your bodily autonomy harms another human being, your bodily autonomy unalives another human being, regardless of where this person is located, regardless of how old this person is, regardless of what this person looks like, regardless of the stage of development of this person. So if you're new to my channel, you probably hate me for talking about this, and that's okay. But if you have followed me for some time, you know that I have spoken about abortion openly. I am someone who used to consider myself pro-choice, and the more that I understood about what abortion was and its impact on women and obviously its impact on children and families, the more and more I moved away from this label of pro-choice, which, by the way, I don't buy into the terms pro-choice and pro-life. I don't use those terms. They are propaganda terms. They don't mean what they don't say what they actually mean. I prefer the terms pro-abortion and anti-abortion, because pro-choice, what do you mean pro-choice? There's no such thing as being pro-choice. You don't get the choice to end the life of somebody regardless of where they're located. And pro-life, I'm actually not pro-life, because I'm very pro-death penalty when it comes to heinous crimes. But yeah, let's come back to this topic. So the government can and already has legislated that we are not allowed to do certain things with our own body, especially if it harms another human being. Just because a woman is carrying her own child in her uterus, in her womb, doesn't mean that she suddenly owns that child. And it definitely doesn't mean that that child's right to life suddenly just disappears into thin air because of that child's location. If you believe that a woman should have the so-called right to terminate a pregnancy because the child is located in her uterus temporarily, then that logic must lead to the belief that you think that a woman has the so-called right to terminate her pregnancy, to unalive her own child up until the minute before that child is born. Because it's about location, right? Because the child is located in the woman's body. So if you really think that a woman has the right to do whatever she wants with her body, and that is even if the child is located in her body, then you must support that child can be unalived until the minute before it's born. So the people who are like, no, but I only believe in having the right to abortion up to 6 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it might be. Okay, so if you think there should be a limit to when a woman can have an abortion, when an abortion can be legally performed, then you don't actually believe that the issue is about the woman's body being the location where the child currently is. But if you're consistent, then at least you're consistent. If you actually believe that it's about the child, well, if the child is located in her body, then she can do whatever she wants with the child. If you believe that means that you can have an abortion up until the minute before the baby is born, at least you're logically consistent. But if you're somebody who says, no, there just needs to be a limit, 12 weeks, 13 weeks, 14 weeks, first trimester, whatever it is. If that's the case, then it's actually not about bodily autonomy. It's actually about the stage of development. Then you think that a human being is only worthy and only has rights after a certain stage, a certain age, certain stage of development, after the human being looks a certain way, after the human being develops some sort of abilities or cognitive function or whatever. And that's a completely different argument. So that's not even related to what Alex Cooper is talking about here, which is what right is there that tells men what they can or can't do with their body? Which, by the way, if we're going to seriously answer this question, the draft, honey. The draft. Young men, for as long as American history has been around, have been forced to go fight in wars that they did not choose to go fight in. They are forced to go to the front lines, sacrifice their life, and sometimes actually lay down their life for a country in a war that they never chose to be in. And that actually is a stronger argument for an infringement on bodily autonomy than it is to claim that the government can't tell a woman what to do with her body when she's pregnant, because a baby is not her body. And I know this is like the most shocking thing and the most offensive thing that women can hear, but your baby is not your body. Your baby is not your arm. Your baby is not your leg. Your baby is temporarily located in your womb for 9-10 months, and that's it. And during those 9 months, that does not mean that you get to do whatever you want with that life. Doesn't mean that life is disposable to you and that life has no rights. So the draft is actually a stronger argument for what Alex Cooper is saying. And I know smart, snarky people are like, yeah, but we haven't had a draft since 1973, so that's not relevant. Have you heard of the Selective Service System? It's a registration of all male U.S. citizens between the ages of 18 and 25 that is considered a key part of national security. And this Selective Service System exists so that if and when a war is conducted and they have to call a draft, they pick names out of this registration and they force men to go and fight a war that they didn't choose to do so. So when I'm listening to this clip and I hear this conversation about abortion being about bodily autonomy, you know, I honestly try to have this conversation in a way that's accessible, because I know what it's like to be a girl in college, in graduate school. I went to an Ivy League school. I know what it's like to have this shoved in your face 24/7 and to be told that if you're a real woman who really cares about other women, you are pro-choice. But I also know that a lot of women who support abortion, they actually don't know what an abortion is. They don't actually know what the effects are. They don't really understand that a child's life has to end somehow and that baby has to come out somehow. So I honestly try to talk about it in a way that's going to educate them and help them understand what abortion actually is. However, hearing these types of conversations is just so it's like nails against a chalkboard, because it really helps you understand just how ill-informed a huge voter base is. It's just proof that all of the propaganda over the last several decades has been really, really successful. A lot of these women really believe that it's a matter of bodily autonomy and that there are no laws ever that tell you what you can or can't do with your body, which is obviously such a lie. But I will say this, the thing that restored my faith in humanity is seeing the comment section on the Call Her Daddy YouTube page. So they posted like an 8-minute clip, 8-minute video that's condensed from this interview. And if you look at the comment section, it was a massive flop on YouTube. People are done with this nonsense. Most people are just over it. They don't like Kamala. She's incredibly unlikable. She's very disingenuous. And people are starting to be more confident and speaking out about the fact that these podcasts are not able to have adult conversations about really important issues like the economy, which in my opinion, personally, the economy is like the biggest issue in this election. Because if you are someone who's married and you have kids like me, you're thinking about raising your kids, you're trying to provide a life for your family, you're trying to think about a future for your children. It sucks out there, you guys. And I'm sure many of you, regardless of whether you're a mom or not, you could be single, in college, whatever, you feel it as much as I do. Groceries are too damn expensive. Gas is too expensive. The housing market is crazy. We bought our house in 2021. Thank God we got a place. But even then, it was crazy back then. It's even crazier now. We would like to upgrade to a bigger car. My husband's got an SUV, but I've got, a little car. Both of my kids can fit in the back, but the 4 of us can't fit all in there at once. I would like to upgrade my car, but the interest rates are just so high. I want I want an economy that's going to be more affordable for families. That's my biggest issue in this election. So when I hear these clips from podcasts, when they're talking about the housing market and stuff, it just makes my skin crawl because it makes me realize that very few people actually understand what we need for a better economy to exist. But the comment section here is a white pill because there are so many thousands and thousands of dislikes. And check out these comments. The first person says, selective service is required for all men to sign up for. Millions of American men have died forcibly at the hands of government. See, exactly what we were saying. Thank you, comment section, for restoring my faith in humanity. Someone says, who all just came here for the comments, LOL. Y'all never heard of the draft? At least 1 million American men have died while under compulsory service to this country. Somebody said, as a woman, this is humiliating. LOL. I cannot believe they left the comments open. Ha 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 ha. 15,000 likes versus 68,000 dislikes. The most popular VP ever. LOL. Meanwhile, Flagrant Podcast with Trump has like more than 2 million views. So you can see here that people are starting to wake up and realize that this kind of manufactured interaction between Kamala and the Call Her Daddy podcast, like this is no hate on Alex Cooper. Like I think she did a good job at least opening up the doors to both of these candidates. But people are starting to see that these moves by Kamala's campaign, they're not landing. It's just, it doesn't stick because she doesn't do well on these off the cuff interviews and she's not addressing the issues in a way that is palatable for people. She's not answering the questions. She's not talking about how she's going to create a better economy. Now, I'm not saying that Trump is a perfect candidate. We could do an entire episode on how he's certainly not the perfect candidate. And in my opinion, he's not the candidate that he was in 2016. In 2016, he had that sort of like startup, burn it all down to the ground energy that a lot of people really liked. He invigorated a voter base in 2016 that many people did not expect. And that's why it was such a shock when he won in 2016. But still, obviously, even though he's not what he was in 2016, he's still obviously a better candidate than Kamala. And seeing her on these podcasts is just further proof of that. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. What do you think of this interview? If you didn't watch it, maybe if you watched the clips, what do you think? What do you think of Trump's campaign? Now, if you're new here and if you are a Kamala fan, sorry. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people in the comment section who hate me. That's okay. Welcome. You are still welcome here. Let me know what you guys want to see on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.